Welcome to the Common Man Football Show. My name is James Cobern, and today's episode is the top 4 most overrated defensive tackles in the 2018 NFL Draft Class based on analytics. And I only have 4 guys for you today, guys, because that's all I could find, was just 4 guys that I felt were overrated. And the way we're judging overratedness on paper is based on production. Again, production is solo tackle market share, sack market share, and tackle for loss market share. Market share, of course, if you're not familiar with this term or you don't really know what it is you simply take a single defensive statistic, individual defensive statistic, and you divide it by the team total statistic. So say a defensive tackle had 10 tackle for loss and the team had 100 tackles for loss. Then you would divide 10 by 100 and you get 10%. But you take that number and you compare it to every single defensive tackle since the 1989 NFL Draft Class. That's how far back my data goes. And you're able to get a good feel for how the All-Pro players performed, how the Pro Bowl players performed, so on and so forth, to get a good feel for production and how it works at the defensive tackle position. So we're going to be judging them on production. A lot of these guys are on this list because of their lack of production. We're also going to be looking at age. Age is very important when it comes to just overall upside. The younger a player is and the more productive a player is at a younger age can determine a lot of things when it comes to being a prodigy, being a special player. So age speaks to a lot of the Mozartness of it all. You know, Mozart was an incredible musician when he was like 6 years old, you know. And that's kind of what it is with football players as well. You know, when football players are amazing at a young age, it just speaks to what their overall potential can be at the next level. And on top of that, the last thing we look at is the speed score, which takes the NFL Draft Scout 40-yard dash that's reported, and it basically looks at what their speed is for their size. You know, the combine will definitely discredit some of this stuff, or at least the pro days will as well. But I just like to use the preliminary 40-yard dashes just to get a good feel for what could happen in the future. We look at production, age, and athleticism. And now let's get to the list. At number 4, we have Lowwell Low Lately, defensive tackle out of Utah. When it comes to height and weight, he's 6'1", 320 pounds with a 5.22 40-yard dash. According to NFLDraftScout.com, based on his production, he scored 27.84 in terms of solo tackle market share, 55.15 when it comes to sack market share, and 53.45 when it comes to tackle for loss market share. His solo tackle market share is just not that good. It doesn't really hit All-Pro level or Pro Bowl level. Has decent sack market share, has okay tackle for loss market share, but his real issues is just in terms of age and in terms of his just other profile issue. You know, 51.19 is his overall age score, which is just not incredibly that impressive. On top of just some of the other issues, again, is just the production just isn't really where it needs to be. So, and I do understand some people are going to say, well, he's a nose tackle and he's this or that, but this is actually Lowwell Low Lately compared to other nose tackle guys. This is actually Lowwell Low Lately compared to Star Low Lately in terms of production, and they just don't really compare. As much as people have been talking about Low Lately as a late first rounder, even last year I was seeing him being mocked late first round according to big mocks like CBS Sports, etc. He just hasn't done anything on paper indicative of a guy who should deserve that much hype. So we'll see what happens this year. He's realistically supposed to be more of a sleeper than a finished thing. But the bottom line is that he's just been way too overrated by most of the media types and maybe even the NFL, just based on things that just don't really matter in the long run, like the speed score. You know, if you have a great speed score, that's great, but having a great speed score has never turned an unproductive player into a Hall of Famer. Based on the data that I've done, there's never been a Hall of Fame player who had a great speed score but terrible production. And until that happens, it's going to continue to happen, you know, when it comes to the trends. At number 3, we have Vita Vea, defensive tackle out of Washington. Probably said that name wrong, apologize. Based on height and weight, he's 6'4", 344 pounds with a 5.34 40-yard dash. Based on his production, he scored 49.73 in terms of solo tackle market share, 54.94 in terms of sack market share, and only 36.24 when it comes to tackle for loss market share. That production is just not getting it done. He hits the sack market share production thresholds he needs to hit, but doesn't hit the solo tackle market share productions in terms of Pro Bowl or All-Pro outcomes, nor does he hit Pro Bowl or All-Pro outcomes when it comes to tackle for loss market share production. And I know what some of you are thinking. Well, he's a two-gapper, or he's a nose tackle, or he's this or that, and that's why he isn't productive. And, you should know how to do that. Well, this is him compared to famous nose tackles that were really, really good. Haloti Ngata, this is him compared to Haloti Ngata. This is him compared to Vince Wilfork. This is him compared to, to even guys, kind of that similar sort of ilk of that sort of two-gapper guy, Casey Hampton, etc. So don't tell me that his production doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Your production doesn't matter if you're a nose tackle. The best nose tackles, the great nose tackles, the nose tackles that people care about and wish there were more of, were way more productive than Vita Vea. So the bottom line is, and this the last part too, is his speed score of only 52.08 out of 100, because he's fast for his size, but he isn't amazingly fast for his size. He's just average fast for his size. So the bottom line is, he's a big guy. He's 6'4", 344 pounds, which is impressive, and he is at least really productive, or at least average productive for his size in certain measures, which is admirable. But this is a guy that's been seen as a top 10, top 5 overall defensive tackle on most people's boards right now, and I just don't see the hype. It just isn't there, and until he has a way more productive season this year, he shouldn't be considered a top, defensive tackle. He should be more of a sleeper. Every year, again, we get these sort of defensive tackles, or just any player in general, who showed some flashes on tape, and then people want to make the next logical step for them. But unless they've done stuff on paper, that you would feel good about drafting them right now, which based on paper, there's nothing about Vita Vea that says, hey, he's a top 5 defensive tackle prospect. So until that happens, he should be considered more of a sleeper. But he's the most overrated because he's already being considered a top prospect, when you really should be considered a sleeper. At number 2, we have Khalil McKenzie, defensive tackle out of Tennessee. When it comes to height and weight, he's 6'3", 325 pounds with a 5'2", 40-yard dash. And when it comes to his production, only scored 17.43 in terms of solo tackle market share, 44.10 when it comes to sack market share, and 12.65 when it comes to tackle for loss market share. That production just is not getting it done. And he was injured last year, which, we'll see what happens this year. But Khalil McKenzie is a guy that I've been seeing mocked day 2. He's, been mocked based on pedigree, based on just stuff like that, when nothing he's done on paper has been amazing. And this is Khalil McKenzie versus other nose tackle types in the NFL that have been successful. His production just doesn't match up for Khalil McKenzie. So until he produces like the top nose tackles in the past, until he produces at that level like the top nose tackles in the past, it doesn't matter how unproductive he is. I mean, I'm tired of nose tackles being given a pass for being unproductive. Saying, oh, well, he's a nose tackle, he's a two-gapper, so he has a right to be unproductive. No. The great nose tackles, despite their disadvantages, were still able to make plays. We're still able to impact the game in unique ways, because that's what you're supposed to do. If you're going to be an NFL player, you can't just be a two-gapper. You have to be a guy who impacts the game above just two-gapping. And until Khalil McKenzie does that, he shouldn't be ranked as high as he's ranked right now amongst most sites, and that is why he's number 2 on this list. At number 1, we have Doron Payne, defensive tackle out of Alabama. When it comes to height and weight, he's 6'2", 308 with a 5.38 40-yard dash. Based on his production, he scored 13.50 out of 100 in terms of solo tackle market share, 10.84 in terms of sack market share, and 11.90 when it comes to tackle for loss market share. That production is just dreadful, guys. As much as people want to make excuses for it, saying, oh, he's a rotational player, and Jonathan Allen and this other guy, it doesn't matter, because the final nail in the coffin for Doron Payne is his speed score of only 14.46 out of 100, which doesn't hit all-pro level, doesn't hit Pro Bowl thresholds when it comes to the position since the 1999 NFL draft class. So the bottom line is Doron Payne is a guy who gets a lot of hype because of the Alabama name. He's supposed to be the next in line to be amazing, but how often have we heard this, guys? Like, based on his production, it just is not hitting high-quality outcomes. Based on his age, he's okay in terms of age, but his speed score on top of that is just significantly below average. Like, the bottom line is, when it comes to Doron Payne, is that he's realistically a guy that should be considered a sleeper. But a sleeper based on, I don't know, based on just Alabama, I guess. Like, hey, he's the next man up, so he's going to be great. But nothing he's done on paper suggests greatness. And because of that, he shouldn't be considered a guy being put into the top 10 or top 20 or first round of drafts or the first defensive tackle off the board. He just isn't that type of player. And until people realize that you shouldn't crown people this early, like, this is really early to be crowning people. And that's what people are doing with Doron Payne. But again, based on his production and based on his athleticism, it's just probably not going to work out very well for him. So we'll see what happens this year. He might be more athletic than what he was reported to be. His production may improve this year. But the bottom line is that he's just way too overrated right now. And that there are other defensive tackles that should deserve a lot more attention than Doron Payne long term. This concludes the top 4 most overrated defensive tackles in the 2018 NFL Draft Class. My name is James Cobern. You can find my work at draftcoburn.wordpress.com. You can also follow me on Twitter at Geometrics. And if you like this content and you want more content like this, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. Share this video with friends and family as well, and I will talk to you guys in the next video. Peace.